Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm your host for this evening, Bill Hirschman. I'm editor and chief critic of FloridaTheaterOnStage.com. And I'm joined by a wonderful panel, the same as always. Michael McKeever, playwright, director, designer, actor, etc. And next to him is the producer and founder of this wonderful program, the actress, writer, and teacher, Iris Acker. And finally, one of the best actresses in the state, Karen Stevens. And we are especially proud and especially happy to have as our guest tonight, Michael Andron, the artistic director of JCAT. Now we're going to start off with the question you get a lot. What is JCAT?
JCAT stands for the Jay's Cultural Arts Theater. We're housed at the Michael Ann Russell JCC in North Miami Beach. We are predominantly a community and youth theater, although we have dabbled just a bit in JCAT Pro, as we did just last year with a world premiere of Broken Snow. And we hope to have more of those professional productions as we go along, as we will be leaving our space, and soon we hope, and I hope that at some point when this is broadcast, that's already in the past, into our new building on the same campus in North Miami Beach. So we're very excited about that possibility.
You've been around a long time. People...
So long.
So talk a little bit about how it started, trace its history a little bit.
Well, actually it started with my son, who then became the playwright, and he produces movie trailers in LA. But when he was younger, he saw that I had started a community theater in South Carolina back in 1970, which is still in operation, not far from Clemson University. And I had stopped doing theater for a while, and he said, he was looking at the scrapbooks, and he said, I want to do a show. So at the time, I went to the Hillel Community Day School, and I said, you want to do a show? And they thought I was going to do some cute little, Washington Day play sort of thing. And we did Oliver, and it was it blew everybody away, because it was lights and sets and the whole 9 yards. And that led to 20 years of doing productions there, which gradually created a thespian society. The kids were doing special shows beyond the open casting. Those kids who had earned the right to be part of the thespian society. We had some adult shows of teachers and parents that became part of it. And 10 years ago, this is now the beginning of our 11th year, we moved a few hundred yards to the south and to the adjoining campus at the Michael Ann Russell JCC. So now, the youth program enabled us to have kids from 30 different schools, and not just the one school. And so we began to do that, and we've done, in our first 10 years, we did 60 productions, plus another dozen camp shows of community theater, youth theater, more or less equally divided, and one JCAT Pro so far.
Well, I've seen the lobby outside your performing space. You don't just do Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh, no.
What kinds of work do you do?
Actually, the first production was The Good Doctor by Neil Simon, but we've done Doubt.
These are adults, I'm sorry. Are this your children's?
The Good Doctor was kids.
That's
was kids, high school, yeah. Good Doctor, right. Good Doctor was kids. We did at least 2 of each. We did The Miracle Worker, that was with kids, but we did Doubt, we did Collected Stories, those were productions with adults. And a number of, I try, particularly with ones related to the Holocaust, for the educational value of it, to try and have kids as part of it. So we call it community theater, but very often there are kids in it. A production of Dear Esther, which is about a woman who survived Sobibor. She was actually at a production that we did, and later on her son and granddaughter came to a second production years later. We try in the flashback scenes to use the kids so that they have an opportunity to work with the professionals and well-trained adults that we have, and thereby improve their skills.
Well, you've hinted at it, but you might want to say it straight out, that what makes your fare different? What is it that people come to you for that they might not go to another organization? Is there a thematic thrust to a lot of what you do?
I've mentioned a few of the Jewish ones, but doubt is certainly not a Jewish theme. We've done a whole slew of major musicals, and we don't limit ourselves in that regard. But in the course of the productions, we try and work with the kids. They're not all Jewish kids either. We have kids coming from Mac and New World and different places, and are part of that.
And what about your audience?
The audience is as mixed a bag as probably any other theater in South Florida. It depends on the shows we're doing. If we announce a Holocaust play or any play that says mature themes and language, that gets a certain audience in. If I have the kids, and it seems to increase seats as soon as you write mature language, they just love it. We did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That was an adult production, although there were a few high school students that were part of it.
Michael, is there something, because your titles are so diverse, is there something that draws you specifically to a title? I mean, when you're looking to set up a season, what draws you to the plays that you choose?
If I read it and I'm not really excited about it, I'm not doing it. It's really that simple. I try and have as diverse a season as possible so that we can appeal to different audiences. There are some that may appeal more to seniors, others that will appeal more to the family crowd. There are some historical plays that will get people involved. We did a production last season of I Remember Mama, a play that you don't see very often. And it was a lot of fun for all of them to learn the Norwegian dialect and have a good time doing it. And they learn history. Unfortunately, as we're sitting here, you understand that history is anything more than like 10 years ago when you're dealing with the kids.
Again, you said they. Now, you said, I remember Mom, they learn.
Those are kids. Those are the kids. That was a kid production. But everyone in the cast had to learn how to work a phone that didn't have buttons on it. And that was a big deal. They had no idea when we did The Lady with All the Answers, a story of Ann Landers. All the kids who were working with Lillian, my wife, it was an adult production, but they were doing all the tech. They finally understood why this is called a return button, because there was actually a carriage that moved back.
So this is their education.
So this is a very important part of their education.
Michael, are you a one-man band? I mean, it's overwhelming. Community theater, professional theater, summer stock, workshops, classes. Are you it?
No. We have a variety of teachers who come in and teach classes to the K through 2 and 3rd through 5th grade. We have a summer camp that goes 2nd through 6th grade. We were talking before we went on air about New World School of the Arts. I taught there many years ago and met knowing Ron Hedrick, and he has choreographed a number of our shows, but he brought us a young man, Saeed Pabon, who is a recent graduate, incredibly talented actor, and he was the director of our camp last summer. There's a limit to what I can do. As a matter of fact, I try when I can to involve some other directors as well, because when we're doing a full season of 4 to 6 shows, there's no time to be able to rehearse 2 at a time, because the nature of who I'm working with, it's after hours. It's either school or after work. You don't have the luxury of rehearsing all day, for 3 or 4 weeks, as you would in a professional world. And so it was kind of interesting when we did Broken Snow, and that was with Nick Richburg and Avi Hoffman and
which was
Dan
a great
Bianca.
production. I saw a great play with a terrific production.
Thank you. And in that venture, it was a whole different world for me, a world that I chose not to enter 40 years ago. And it was very interesting. I learned a great deal just by going through the production and the endless equity rules that I, that I have
Welcome to Actors Equity.
that I don't worry about quite as much.
Right.
I mean, we still give them 5 and 10 and so on, and we let them eat. But, I'm not used to having an axe fall and you know, people making.
And fall it does.
And yes, yeah.
And rightly so, all of it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And
The actor.
A personal question. Given the opportunity, would you just direct and let someone else handle the administration, or do you like doing that as well?
I would be more than thrilled to have somebody else handling all of that. I do some, my wife does some. We work as a team, and we have since we met at an audition at NYU back in the early 70s.
Wow.
So, and still married.
Congratulations.
Going on
Well
40,
done.
yeah, we're up going on 45 years this next one. And I do it because it's something that has to get done. Look, I was climbing ladders and focusing lights, and recently found a young man who says, no, I'll do it. And I went, oh, okay. Gee, that light's a little, oh, no problem. And he's up the ladder, and I went, oh, this is good.
Yeah, hold on to that.
Yeah, this is very, very good. I like this. So part of it is coordinating the builders and the costume people, and all of those people are professionals.
Talk about your new theater.
Well, it's a 220-seat black box theater.
Nice.
All the seats are raised. They are retractable if necessary. And 20-foot high catwalks, which I don't even know what I'm going to do with. I'm so used to a low ceiling. All of the lights that I have, people come in and they say, oh my God, look at all these lights that you have up. But suddenly when they're 20 feet in the air, they don't put out the same amount of light 20 feet up in the air. And so but we have a shop, which is probably going to be more of a second rehearsal space so that shows can overlap and we can set the stage there for the next one. But real dressing rooms and real showers. Right now we're in we go into the preschool, and everybody's sitting on little low chairs to get their makeup done. So it's going to be very exciting when we move in, and the transition is always bumpy. Transitions are bumpy.
But the good thing about that is that once you get past that transition, you're going to have this whole new world to play in.
Yes, and a lot of people are already asking us, gee, a nice second venue. We're down over here or way up in Jupiter. How about bringing in a show from someplace else? And we're hoping to be able to do that as well. We have, there's an Israeli theater company that's going to be doing Hebrew plays with English super titles. Avi Hoffman's going to be doing a number of plays in Yiddish with super titles. We hope to see in the future Death of a Salesman in Yiddish, which was very well received in New York and Toronto.
It was a huge hit off Broadway, yes.
And we're hoping to make that, that is one of the aspects of this, is that because we do not perform on Friday night or Saturday.
Wait a minute. So Friday nights?
Friday nights, no show.
And Saturday night?
No, Saturday night
afternoon.
after the
Just
Sabbath
not a
is over.
Saturday matinee.
Right. And as a result, we have in a production of Kindertransport a woman who is traveling all the way from Boca because it's the only Sabbath observant game in town. And she would love to do more community theater, but she's Orthodox. And so she's not going to be able to ply her trade. And so this way we have an opportunity for actors from that community, of which I am from that community, from that group. So it's an opportunity for that.
That's great.
So we're very excited about the future in the new building and seeing it as a center for that, but not just Jewish-related stuff. Any more than those Israeli companies come in, they do all kinds of stuff. They're comedies and dramas and so on.
Does your curriculum remain the same from year to year, or do you change it up?
For the classes?
For the classes.
The kids are so young. We want to make sure that they're always doing some performance at the end of the series. So whoever the teacher is that year is always going to choose a play, and they will work toward that. But we want them to get the basic skills, upstage, downstage. We've had a grand time with Kindertransport because the stage is raked, and for the first time they have an idea why this is upstage and that's downstage, and no one had ever seen that before. So it will vary by the teacher and what their specialty is. Sometimes they'll do a musical, sometimes they'll do a straight play. But those are enrichment classes. The ones who you learn theater by doing theater. And we have an opportunity for those kids who, for whatever reason, don't go to a New World School of the Arts, but a little, 7th grade girl that we have as a lead in one of our current plays, she's done 10 full stage productions. And we don't cut the plays. And that's a lot of plays for a 7th grader.
Mm-hmm. What are the challenges and rewards I find it interesting, the mixing of students in with professionals in or with experienced adults. What is that process like?
It's wonderful. Because every play, as you know, it becomes a family. That cast, for the duration of that time, becomes a family. And that's a wonderful thing, that they have the opportunity to work with other people. But even in our youth productions, we have kids in 4th grade hobnobbing with 12th graders. Where else do you see that?
What's difficult about that as a director or a producer? What are the challenges involved in mixing folks out?
You watch the kids evolve. You watch them learn. There are certain things they can't do. And then you'll see one little kid just rise up and do some remarkable stuff, and you try and nurture that as much as you can. And then you pray that you don't lose them to New World.
You're talking about the fact that you have so many students working in productions. Are there any productions that really stand out to you that are your favorites?
Well, as a community production, we did a production of Women's Minion a number of years ago. For the first time in 40 years, I stepped on stage myself for a production of My Name is Asher Lev a couple of years ago with my wife Lillian. So we played 7 parts between us, and one of our kids who had started with us in 5th grade came back from California, where he was working as an actor, to play Asher Lev. So
that must have been wonderful.
It was phenomenal. This year we had a wonderful, very exciting moment because Michael Aronov won Best Supporting Actor Tony.
Sure.
And I was his first director.
Oh.
And he had started with me. He had started with me years ago.
What did you direct him in?
Rock On Rumpelstiltskin.
Which is much different than Oslo, which is what
Yeah,
you
it was
won
a little
for.
different than Oslo.
Why not?
But
The JCC. I belong to the JCC. I attend classes at the JCC. What does the JCC? First of all, it's a big complex, and you have a small theater. I was wondering, where do your classes take place?
on the stage.
Everything is
Unless
on
there's
that
a
stage.
play that
It's a
doesn't
small-
allow for it, then
But
we'll
of
move
course.
into the back room.
Everything at
Yeah.
summer stock. You don't use any of the facilities.
There are so many things going on at the Michael Ann Russell JCC. It's
I know,
impossible to grab a room. I have with one show going on, and we have a musical going, so I have to have Ron Hedrick choreographing in one space, and Marlena Tuchinski doing musical direction in another space, and a show going on at the same time. It's a challenge.
Now you are considered Aventura. Is that? Would you
We're
tell?
technically on that side of Biscayne Boulevard, so we're technically North Miami Beach, but it's an
North
Aventura
Yes. I don't think we mentioned
zip
yet
code.
the location.
It's in
And
North Miami Beach at 189th Street, 1 block west of West Dixie Highway, which is just over Biscayne Boulevard.
Easy to get to. Yes.
Yeah, it's very easy.
Oh, it's cake, yeah.
I can't say at the moment there's huge amounts of parking because with the new building going on, a certain number of spaces have been taken up, but they'll be back. And by the time this airs, we hope all those spaces will be back and people can come and fill the house.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bob.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about your own performance history. That you mentioned that you started off in New York with your wife. Can you tell us about what led you into directing and how you segued from
I
performer?
started in a camp at 8 years old where we did 9 shows a summer. You started Sunday morning, you opened Saturday night, you closed Saturday night, you opened Sunday morning for 9 weeks. That's how you did it. It was in a barn theater that was 200 years old and still exists. And I just fell in love with it. And when I did some in high school, there was a limited theater program where I was. But when I went to Yeshiva University, there was an amazing director, Dr. Anthony Bucas, who was a Yale, NYU, master's, PhD guy with incredible creativity. And I wanted to be him. And as most directors start out modeling somebody else until they develop their own style. And we sat down in my senior year and said, okay, you're going to go pro, or you're going to go community theater or educational theater. And I chose educational theater. When he gave me both worlds and the ups and downs of both, that was the direction I went. And from that time on, people who act have a different way of looking at a show than people who direct. And I know there are actors who become directors, but many of them direct as if they were actors, directing each one's performance along the way. To be able to look at a play and see it for the first time ever, every time, and be able to see the big picture and see everybody's arc as well as the directorial arc of a play, that is certain people have it, and they have it as little kids. You can see them. My son used to do plays around the house, and it was the big show, and he'd pick up every pebble and twig on the street. And what's that for? It's for the big show. And the show might last 5 minutes, but it was like a half an hour of preparation for the big show, setting everything. And Dr. Bucas had met him when he was a baby, and he, a few years old, and he came to some of the shows, and he said, he looks at things like a director. We went to see Snow White at Radio City, and there's a million witches appearing all over, and it's raining on stage, and a 15-foot rock and a lightning bolt comes down and breaks the stone open. And the doc is holding on to the witch, and she falls into the chasm, and every kid in the audience is crying, screaming from this thing. And he's 3 years old. And he looks at us and he says, well, that's the end of her. And so we knew he was going to be a director.
So I've got a question. I'm friends with Alvin Enton, who runs PP Topa, another community theater. And he argues that there is some terrific community theater out there that people underestimate because it's a community theater and people aren't being paid necessarily, or very few people are being paid. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to talk about the public perception of community theater as well. It's a place that people can vent their artistic souls, and that's really the end of it.
I agree with him 100%. I think that I can't say it for every community theater out there, but I can say that I do not set anything less than a professional standard. Now, I can't always meet that standard, and by professional, I don't mean paid. I mean where you are engaged and absorbed in a play. You mentioned Broken Snow that you had seen. That's a production that, in the round especially, was incredibly engaging, and the people who came were very much a part of that production. But in our non-equity productions, in the community theater productions, we have a very high standard that we set. And we try to, anyway. And for the most part, we're surviving 30 years now, so in the community, so we must be doing something. And
I think it's your audience, too. I think they will accept community theater as well as professional. They'll go back and forth.
Yes, absolutely they do.
I think that's the audience.
And since we went to JCAT and left Hillel, so we were now out in the public world, we are beginning to attract actors who do community theater, actors who will come into even a professional show, not as equity, but as a guest performer. And so we get a different kind of actor. Carla Zaxon-Heller, for example, she works in this particular world, but she has become part of that. And I hope that we have others that come in from that world, because this is where the future audience for all of us comes from. It comes from the non-professional world. Nobody starts out that way. And they all come from that world. I mean, every Tony Award that's given talks back about the high school teacher that taught them how to think and how to look and how to observe, and that's really important.
Well, Michael, for the people who might be watching tonight and want to know how to take a class or how to audition for you or how to just come and see a show, how do they go about doing that?
Well, our website is jcctheater.com, and that will usually have any upcoming auditions on it. And because we're on Facebook and Twitter as JCAT.Miami, if they go there, then they will get notices about upcoming auditions, upcoming plays, what the season is, how to get season tickets, and the box office and all of that. So we recommend jcctheater.com and the JCAT.Miami Facebook, Twitter. I think we have Instagram too. And I don't know why, but what we do. And my PR person is going to say, "Why did you say that about it?" So, but
What would you like someone to contact you about? What would you like them to ask you?
well, we like them to come and participate. We are continually getting people who, some of whom have retired, and not old retired, but young retired, or have moved down here and want someplace to do theater without the pressure of the professional world and want to volunteer. We have a couple of them in the show we're currently working on there, and they're wonderful. And they come in and they say, "What can I do for you today?"
And that is a wonderful, inspiring place to stop.
Yes, absolutely.
We want to thank Michael Andron for telling us what JCAT actually means. And we want to thank our terrific panel and thank you for coming to see us. Please join us again at the theater, where if you want to find out what theater is going on, please check out floridatheateronstage.com and its calendar. And we hope to see all of you here back next week for another edition of Spotlight on the Arts. Thank you and good night.